Good morning, Claudia.
Hey,
How are you?
Sebastian, I'm good. How
It's
are
great
you?
to see you. I'm doing well.
Good. Gorgeous day.
Gorgeous, gorgeous
And
day.
we're at House 13.
The beautiful house 13 with a lovely front porch. I
Yep.
mean, look at the greenery behind you. Really shows on a beautiful
No,
day. So, Claudia, first question. How did Rock Locations launch? How did it begin?
everyone asks me that, assuming I've been in locations like my whole career, which I have not been in my whole career at all. I've been in media. I've been in entertainment, publishing for my whole career.
Okay.
First as an actor, then as a casting director, then as an actor's coach and a magazine editor. So everything was in media and entertainment. When I moved to the Rockaways about 7 years ago from Manhattan, I needed to find work and I needed to sort of bring my skills to the community. I did want to connect to the community. I didn't just want to be sitting at home or commuting into the city. I wanted to meet people here. I wanted to give back to Rockaway. I wanted to make friends.
Right.
And I thought through my work is how I would love to do it. I wasn't really sure where that was going to go or how it was going to happen. So I was kind of scrambling a little bit, had some time to think about it. And I was in one of the surf shops that I now represent, and I had been coming to the beach for about 3 years, 3 summers. On weekends, I'd been coming to Rockaway to Beach 67. So I knew some locals. And I was in a surf shop just randomly looking at things. And I said to one of the owners, "This shop is so cool. Has it ever been in a commercial or anything?" They said, "No, why? Can you get us one?" And that was it. I literally ran out the door and said, "I have my business." So I started to run into every bar and every restaurant and every shop, not homes, because I didn't know homeowners and I couldn't do that,
Right.
and asked them. I threw this idea out. If I launch a business where I can represent your business for production, don't know where this is going to go, no guarantee if it's going to work, would that be of interest? They said, "Yeah, sign me up. Where do I sign up?"
That is so awesome.
In a beach community, off season, it's a struggle for many locations. Summer, it's sort of nonstop out here, but off season, any other ways to make some income was of interest, and that's how it started. I called we have 2 local newspapers, and I called them both, and I said, "I'm about to start a new business in Rockaway. I don't really know where it's going to go. Would this be of interest?" They both said yes. One of them booked an interview with me the next day. And I told them what my idea was. And within a week, homeowners were calling. The phone was ringing off the hook. How do I get my house in a commercial? I've always wanted to get my house in a TV show. How do you get my house in a movie? So I knew there was an interest. I knew there was a niche.
Absolutely.
And I knew no one else was doing what I do. There are other shoots in Rockaway, but there was no agent that was connecting home and business owners to production. So that's how it launched.
Wow, that's awesome. That is amazing. All right, next question. How has Rock Locations changed over these last 7 years that you've been in business?
Well, obviously, at the beginning, I had a handful of businesses. I had 15 businesses, and I thought I was ready to go. And everyone said, "No, Claudia, you got to get all." Because then the phone started to ring. I remember this. I need a 70s house with a pink shag rug. I need a bus station window. Once they heard I was out here, they thought I had everything.
Right.
I only had 15 locations, which clearly was not going to make it. So I started to add and add and add. Of course, I was losing locations too. People move, businesses close, an owner may not be interested anymore. So
Right.
I kept having to add. And the word on the street, as much as you can get in your inventory, keep adding. So I started to add. And the other thing that has changed, I was getting calls from, "We need to shoot in Long Island, we need to shoot in the city, we need a photo studio." I didn't have that. I was really located in Rockaway because I wanted to be here and
Right.
very hands-on. So I started to add some photo studios in Manhattan and Brooklyn because we don't have those here, and I could see a need for that. A homeowner in Long Island asked me to rep her house. She's very close to Rockaway, and she's very connected to Rockaway. So I added that. So I started to stretch out a little bit beyond Rockaway. I still try to keep as local as I can be, but I do have locations in other places. So
Right.
that's expanded. And I realized also in the beginning, well, I have that sort of house. I don't need another Victorian house. Well,
Right.
you might need another Victorian house because this house may not have the bathroom that they want.
Exactly.
And that house, they don't want a porch. So I had to sort of be a little more open. So that's also has changed. And my website has changed and expanded. I started with a Facebook presence. And I have a beautiful website and a designer who's created that site. So that's evolved. I just keep trying to evolve and
grow.
grow and offer more options to clients. So
Right. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
Good question.
So when deciding on bringing in a new house or business, what do you look for in terms of potential that you can bring to these reps?
I'm open to anything. So if somebody says, would you rep my house? Would you rep my business? I'm always going to say yes with a qualifier. I need to see it. I need to see some photos. I mostly look for two things, I'd have to say. One would be, would this be of interest to production? Now that I know kind of what they're looking for, it's tricky if it's really small, a small house or an apartment. You've got a lot of equipment and crew, even not on a giant shoot, but a medium-sized shoot. If you have 20 or 30 people showing up with a lot of equipment, tricky. But I'm not going to rule it out, because it could be a fashion photographer who has one model and one stylist. It could be 3 people. So size and sort of movement through the location. Can they get through down halls? How many stairs are there? Is that going to be a factor? If it's a lot of stairs up to an apartment or a business,
Right.
that's a factor. I also look to make sure, like, I don't have to like it. It doesn't have to be my style. But I want to make sure it's not like almost exactly like something else. So if I have 2 kind of dive bars, which I do I really need a third one? Unlikely. But if I know of a third one and those 2 aren't available, then I can just actually reach out to that bar directly and say, I have got this shoot. Those 2 bars are not available. So I don't have to sort of repeat a real, like I represent a bodega. I don't really need another bodega. It's not that different, even if the items in the store are different, you know? But if that bodega is not available for that day, then in my mind, I kind of know where the others, I could always run in and ask. So I don't want to repeat. Houses have a little more options, you know, of showing more than one Victorian or one surfer's bungalow. I do need more. Businesses are a little more specific, so I'm not as open, I guess, but open to any idea of adding. It's interesting because when I first started the business, the first few years, the phone was ringing off the hook for houses. And I thought, why am I not getting interested in the business? What can I do? And now it's almost been the reverse. The phone is ringing for businesses and not as much for houses. So at one point when I thought of dropping the businesses, because I was like, what's the point? And then I was advised, why drop them? It's not costing you anything to keep them.
Exactly. Okay.
And now I'm getting a lot of calls, and now I've been booking my gas station or my social club.
That's great. Right.
Those have been more interesting, or a church or a school. I've taken on a school that's incredibly popular. So that's how I decide. And like something like a school, it's really tricky to go to the DOE and ask if they can do production in a school. There's so many hoops to jump through. Whereas I have a parochial school here where I just deal with the principal, and there's one other contact at the school, and they can say yes after school hours or weekend or night. We don't have to go through other organizations or divisions.
Right.
So that's also what I'm thinking about when I'm taking something on.
Right. And I guess with 7 years in the business, what are some challenges, some obstacles that you've faced and you've come across, and what have you learned from them? How have you grown from them?
There's always challenges in any business, especially owning a business by myself. Has been a challenge. I have a website designer I can lean on. I've had great interns who I can lean on, and I do. I've had some assistants off and on who I've leaned on. I've also leaned on mentors, colleagues who've been in the locations business a lot longer than I have, not in production necessarily, who know about how locations work. So I've leaned on, there's probably 3 or 4 of them, 2 mostly, who I do say, oh, this client doesn't want to pay until when they show up. Is that okay? No, that's not okay. No, you need payment before. You know, is it okay that they're bringing 20 more people and they told me it was 20 and now it's 40? No, that's not really cool. You need to charge for that. So I've really reached out to them. I also reach out to them to collaborate. So a client will reach out to me, I need X, Y, or Z. I don't have that, but I have an idea who may have that. And I have 2 colleagues particularly. I said, do you have one is great with Brooklyn and great with warehouses, and another has New Jersey sort of locked up. So I can reach out to them, and I've booked a number of jobs actually with them where we share the jobs outside of Rockaway. So I'm trying to remind my clients that don't just assume it's those locations. So that's been a challenge. Like I used to say, no, I don't have it, I'm going to lose that job. Well, now I've learned how to lean on other people. I may or may not book with them, but it opens a door to other things. So the challenge is have been some difficult clients who I try to be as professional as I can, ask all the questions, try to get as much information so there aren't surprises. There often are, not often, there can be surprises on a shoot. As much information as I have, as much as spelled out in my contract, I can still get a call, true story, music video at a house, everything going okay. Well, I didn't know they were going to have a smoke machine and all the fire alarms just went off. Fire company just called. My husband just called.
Wow.
We shut everything off. I didn't know they were going to have a smoke machine. Now I know to ask that. And she was great and cool and easy. But I should have known that. The client should have told me that. I should have gotten approval from the owner that they could run a smoke machine. She would have then just shut off the fire alarm system. We didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So those, I can't know everything before. I try to ask as much as I can. I've learned how to, obviously, it has to be insurance. I've learned to increase my security deposit just in case there's minor damage. I've needed a little bit more money sometimes, not often. So things like that. And I'm still learning and growing. At every job, I probably add one more new note to my contract of something I've learned that he did not ask about. But knock wood, I mean, really no major issues.
That's great.
You know, minor conflict, minor challenges, but that's how I've grown and learned too. So I've gotten better, what I do.
And finally, what are your dreams and goals for the future of Rock Locations? What do you have, what do you have in store for your audience?
We've had a Writers Guild strike. We've had a Screen Actors Guild strike. That's also been a huge challenge this year to all of us in the industry. Writers have resolved. I think actors will resolve very soon. So when that comes back, my dream would be to have I had 2 TV shows a couple of years ago. One was a 2-day job. One was a 5-day job. I would love to have bigger TV, bigger features. I do a lot of indie features, short films. I would love a big feature film and a television show. And I would love sort of a repetition. So we always use this house in that show because the characters are always back at that house. I've never had that. I've never had We Need You Again in season 3 and in season 10. And you watch TV shows, right? And they all live in the same house. It's ongoing. But I haven't had that yet.
Okay.
And that would be awesome in terms of presence, visibility, the owners, income, financially, and fun. To turn on a TV show and the characters live here. That creates a challenge, of course, because real people live in these homes. Real people run those bars and shops, and customers expect it to be open. So there's a challenge. How do you shut something down more than a day or 2? And that's a challenge I haven't had yet. The long TV show that we did 5 days at one house was a house that was about to be taken down. It was empty. The owners had bought the property. So they were about to pull the house down. Anyway, I got in right before that house got demolished, and they needed a funky, not pretty house, really a house in disrepair, and I had it. So we were able to get in there for 5 days, which was like perfect.
Right, yeah.
Nobody lived there. The challenge there was the owners were, what's going to go on our block? A very nice block uptown. So the location managers had to knock on every door, talk to every neighbor, and take care of them, and make sure that block was not going to disturb them for a whole week. And they did an incredible job. I never got a complaint. I never had an issue. But that would be a challenge for somebody who's living in that home. So obviously we have to put them up somewhere, and production has to take care of that, and the owners have to be amenable to that. Not as easy, but I'd love to get that. So that would really be fun for Rock Locations. Oh, and I have one other dream, which would be, that was a big TV show with a star, but the star wasn't in that episode at that house. So to get a name visibility, I think last year there was a shoot in the next town with Brad Pitt and George Clooney, and it was a big, obviously, buzz. I went over to see it. I couldn't even get near that house. I mean, they had blocked off street after street. I wouldn't mind having some names. Doesn't have to be those names, but to get a little promo marketing, like guess who was working with Rock Locations. I've had some names, but not a name yet of real visibility that I would really love to have that too. That would really be nice for my company.
I agree. No, that would be.
That would be fun.
Yeah. All right, Claudia, thank you so much for meeting with me and answering my questions. Yeah, it was great talking with you, and great learning about rock locations, the origin, and where you're headed.
Good.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Thank you. Thanks
Yeah,
for asking me.
of
Have a good
course.
one.
You as well.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
Bye.